Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, what are the latest you have? What are the updates you have? And what you want to say as your introductory news clipping?
Thank you, Mr. Rashid Kanchan. Of course, welcoming all my panelists in the studio and across Zoom in America. First of all, I want to begin by saying that I was there during the second day of the general debate, and much of the concerns are regarding the countries, basically regarding Ukraine, Spain, Monaco, Iran, Switzerland, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Australia, Italy, amongst other nations. We see how most European nations came out to the opening statement of President Volodymyr Zelensky, who slammed Russia for this ongoing aggression that we see into Ukraine. But alongside, there has been remarks from President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, that the Iran never sought or seeks to build a nuclear weapon. And of course, he's trying to avoid all kinds of European sanctions, and thus such a statement. But alongside this, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had reaffirmed to resolve or find a peaceful solution to the Ukraine war. And of course, this meeting was held behind closed doors, and it lasted almost 1 hour and concluded without opening remarks for the press. So it's good to say that the press do not know what the two diplomats had exchanged. But it was, of course, resolving the Ukrainian crisis, building the understandings between Russia and America summit in Anchorage that happened in August 15. So these were the developments that we have from the UN. And let me also add on that almost in about 60 years, Syria's representative and its leader, Ahmed al-Shara, kept his opening speech even while being labeled a terrorist by US and UN organizations. So this is a historic first that has taken place at UNGA 80.
Donald Trump says Ukraine can recapture all its territories. This is a huge breakthrough after Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin, his counterpart. I mean NATO's counterpart or Ukraine's counterpart. I want to engage Shamsul Alam Pantho, our international affairs commentator, who follows Donald Trump's every single move. He is now in New York. He is covering United Nations General Assembly. Shamsul Alam Pantho, my question would be, with Donald Trump declaring that Ukraine can recapture all its territory, how likely is escalation or a diplomatic breakthrough, because it is a big statement comes from the United States President Donald Trump?
Well, thank you for passing me the mantle here, but there is something that has happened, and the Guardian was reporting regarding Donald Trump. Former or current President Donald Trump is claiming that his UN address was undermined by a triple sabotage, citing issues with escalator, teleprompter, etc. And he's also demanding an investigation into the matter of why such an event, such a sabotage maneuver was given at the UNGA. But as you were saying about Ukraine and how Russia has escalated to a point where we observe that there has been border issues of foreign interference by foreign aircrafts, especially for Estonia and other countries. We see today Finland's remark, opening a speech by its leader, and even he has said that they are ready and prepared as a member of NATO to counter any kind of escalation by the Russian side. Let me emphasize that Finland has a large, long border with Russia, and of course, United States' position remains such that even if you look at the Article 4 and 5 of NATO, any kind of escalation shall be met by further retaliation and, of course, support by the United States of America towards NATO if other NATO countries are targeted. But of course, this is a maneuver by the Kremlin just to show, just to see what are the tactics used by NATO to deter such actions.
You see, in the United Nations General Assembly, we see Donald Trump is very vibrant, very active. Turkish President Erdogan is very active, very vibrant. Indian Prime Minister is very vibrant. But the absence of Chinese President Xi Jinping, absence of South African President Jacob Zuma, and absence of course, world's most unpredictable leader Vladimir Putin, absence here in UNGA. What are the vibes actually, or what are the message is going to the world about the UNGA this session, 80th session? Shamsul Alam Pantho from New York.
Thanks for passing me this question. Of course, it's quite so important. We understand that major players are not in attendance of the UNGA 80 this time around, especially that includes Xi Jinping and, of course, Vladimir Putin. But let me take you back. Just a few days ago, we had the SEO summit in which much of the leaders were also there from the global south, what they call it. But the absence of Donald Trump had become so ever so relevant. But if you look at UNGA this time around, the common topics include Ukraine and, of course, the continuous heinous attacks on the people of Palestine. So this has been the general consensus here. Everyone is trying to push for a two-state solution. Even we see that the Qatari Emir yesterday had commented for a two-state solution. And not only so, let me also add on here that there is a news of a bilateral talk between the leaders of United States of America and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, which is likely to be hosted in the White House in Washington, D.C. So the general temperature over here remains quite fruitful as we go on with the event for the coming couple of days. There will be more debates sessions for other world leaders to comment on these issues. But I want to address all our viewers in Bangladesh and around the globe that the general citizens of America do understand and do support this Palestine recognition. And even before, so this has been some kind of territorial genocide ever since for the last 8 or so decades. So once again, reiterating the fact that common Americans see this as America's blatant support for Israel only fuels this aggression towards killing innocent children and women inside that enclave. And not only so, world leaders are now pushing, and Israel is facing some kind of push from even European countries that this is not going to have any kind of political win to this aggression.
All right. Let me talk. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir.
You have been, of course, focusing on the UN General Assembly. But let me tell you, there is a serious doubts in the minds of citizens in general that United Nations has far outlived its utility. There is serious questions being asked. Is it going to see like the way League of Nations faded away? Because many of the world issues are not being, United Nations has been quite ineffective, including our own domestic in the Rohingya issues we have seen. And some of the important decisions are held outside the United Nations, between the major powers or between the bilaterally and all. So United Nations it's a congregation of all the leaders in the world. They can go and they can talk and some people may listen, some people may not listen. But the outcome, I am sorry, is quite disappointing.
I think I should put this question to Shamsul Alam Pantho, who is on the spot, eyewitness of 80th UNGA this year. You have heard Shamsul Alam Pantho, that Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, very knowledgeable gentleman. He says the effectiveness of UNGA, and he has raised a question that are you going to see the League of Nations sort of things. I mean, the importance of League of Nations has been finished for some reason, and United Nations has been formed. Now questions are coming, what is the effectiveness of United Nations? Sir, Shamsul Alam Pantho.
I was hearing very carefully to Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, sir, and of course he does have a point in saying that the UN is restricted to a certain level. I want to use a metaphor to describe the current situation of the United Nations. Of course, the UN is a stage, but underneath this stage there are a lot of cracks. So why I say this and why I put it this way is you can come out in outright condemnation, you can come out by saying that a heinous crime has taken place in some part of the earth, but I am a citizen of Bangladesh, and for the last 8 years I do not see any kind of major developments towards even one of our border territorial issues. So this is just one example from Bangladesh, but there are other examples all across the globe. And as I said, it is a stage where everyone takes notice of, and this is not just some meeting that happens every other or time or when they discuss. It's an annual gathering of the world's leaders, every year, the third week of September is marked as a moment for the year when all the leaders are in position to or to reclaim or to show the entire world what the entire stage is all about. But however, Commodore Ishfaq sir does have a point that the UN is not being able to live up to its what is expected of the United Nations. Certainly, you take a look at Donald Trump. He has been cutting off and removing himself from institutions of very significant importance. So one of them being UNESCO, something that looks after the cultural and heritage sites of all over the globe, not just here in America. So pulling out in general from the United Nations sub bodies that it has, it is definitely detrimental not only to the society here in the United States of America, but UN as a whole. So of course, UN is looking for support not only from United States, but other players. And might I say, this is an avid opportunity for China to make some kind of remark, if not to look at the woes that have United Nations also worried.
How credible is the latest US or United Nations peace proposal for Gaza, and what are its strengths and weakness? Because people of the world wants to see the action from United Nations.
Well, when considering the Gaza issue, I mean, United States has been supporting the narrative that they must eliminate Hamas no matter where it may be. And what that avenue has done is that it has allowed the government of Israel and the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu to attack on a sovereign nation in Qatar. So this eventually had opened up Pandora's box to a certain degree, and the entire Middle East is now becoming a decentralized kind of position, and it's of course very hostile. And not just that, even when I was flying in to New York, I chose my transit to become to Dubai. So just as that attack happened, a lot of industries in one go had made a decision that it is now unsafe for the new reality that Israel does have expansionism plans in towards the Middle East. And of course, all of these nations and all of these narratives are, as it comes through, we see that any moment this can escalate into a further retaliation. There have been talks between another escalation between Iran and Israel. And we know that IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is trying to understand what kind of internal goals there are of the Iranian government to secure a warhead, even as its president had said today that they do not seek to create a nuclear weapon. So these are the issues and of course, if there were any nuclear armed weapons in Iran, then of course they would have showed that in their 12-day fight with Israel. But even when that happened, the US had helped Israel bombing their nuclear facilities. And of course, it's the 21st century, and doing such acts in the 21st century does have certain effects and long-lasting effects that will definitely have an impact towards the region.
Shamsul Alam Pantho, I just need to do one question, which during the show people are asking in the social medias, that what outcome you expect from the delegation. Huge number of delegation, more than 85 people are traveling to New York right this moment under the leadership of interim chief Professor Muhammad Yunus. What outcome Bangladesh will receive from this UNGA meeting? We see the photo sessions in the social media only.
Well, thank you. Our delegation is, of course, quite grand and big that have arrived at the UNGA 80. But towards the end of the program here, and towards the end of when Muhammad Yunus will have bilateral chats with a lot of other leaders that are here, towards the end there is a program in which the Rohingya crisis, the Rohingya question, what to do here, and it ties up with Myanmar. And in my analogy, we understand that there has to be a resolution regarding what has already had taken place. We were talking about a peaceful corridor, which the army in Bangladesh had said otherwise. So the United Nations should be able to give an answer regarding this issue. And of course, our delegation that went to the US, they are trying to have sideline meetings with other leaders to understand how the United Nations will respond to this issue of almost 1.1 million Rohingyas residing in Bangladesh as a consequence of genocidal acts and ethnic cleansing held out by Myanmar.